Ever had something you know you need to do, but suddenly you are deep into reorganizing your sock drawer or watching three back to back documentaries about alpacas? Welcome to the Procrastination Olympics, where we take home gold in delaying, only to feel awful about it afterwards. But here's the thing: procrastination isn't about laziness. It's our brain's way of shielding us from uncomfortable emotions like fear, self doubt, and overwhelm. And that's where things get tricky. So, today, let's unpack why we procrastinate, how stress and anxiety fuel it behind the scenes, and most importantly, how to break free. Because you deserve a life where "I'll do it later" doesn't keep holding you back. So, what's actually happening in our brains when we put things off? What most people don't realize is that procrastination isn't a bad habit, it's a neurological tug of war. On one hand is your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that acts like a skilled project manager, calmly planning for the future. But on the other hand is amygdala, the brain's stress processor that acts like a terrified toddler, screaming for instant relief. If a task feels overwhelming, uncertain, or tied to possible failure, the amygdala pushes you towards instant relief, a quick dopamine hit from distractions. That's why, instead of tackling the uncomfortable tasks, we suddenly find ourselves doom scrolling, reorganizing drawers, or deep diving into random YouTube videos. This explains why experts see procrastination as more than just a bad habit. It's actually self sabotage. I recently read a New York Times article that completely reframed my understanding of procrastination. It featured a striking quote from psychologist Dr. Pierce Steele, who says, "Procrastination is self harm." That hit me hard. We are not just delaying the tasks, we are knowingly making choices that hurt our future selves. Our brains treat our future selves like strangers. When we put things off, it feels like we are offloading the burden to someone else. But that someone else is still us, just a more stressed and overwhelmed person. The ancient Greeks even had a word for this, akrasia, which means acting against our better judgment. So, what's the real cost here? Well, over time, this cycle reinforces itself. Chronic procrastination doesn't just create stress and shame, it can lead to anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues like hypertension. The irony is that we avoid discomfort now to create even greater pain in the future. So, this isn't poor time management. It's a slow, compounding form of self sabotage that we need to recognize and break free. Procrastination isn't about lack of motivation. Sometimes it's deeply rooted in our emotions. Often we delay tasks because we are trying to avoid the uncomfortable feelings they stir up. These might be fear of failure, perfectionism, or even just the anxiety of starting something new. When we procrastinate, we are trying to protect ourselves from these feelings of discomfort. That's why simply forcing ourselves to start something doesn't work in the long run, because we need to address the underlying emotions that cause the avoidance in the first place. For someone with ADHD, it's an overloaded system that struggles to prioritize. With trauma, it's a nervous system stuck in survival mode. With depression, even small tasks feel impossible. These conditions make us see tasks in a distorted way. Anxiety makes us imagine worst case scenarios. Depression makes us doubt our ability. Trauma turns normal situations into threats, making procrastination seem like the only choice. But do you know what's the greatest lie procrastination tells us? That this chaos is productivity. When you work well under pressure, you're not thriving, you're just scraping by despite your brain being hijacked by panic. That's damage control. Just enough to save your job, but rarely enough to unlock your potential. The things that matter the most, such as your health, your art, rarely scream loud enough. No deadlines, no panic. Just quiet some days that never come. Here's where the things backfire. The very procrastination meant to protect us often makes things worse. Skipping social events leads to isolation, which breeds depression. Putting off important tasks might feel easier in the moment, but adds pressure later on, which triggers even more delaying. So, this is a vicious cycle where solution only adds to the problem. That's why we need to recognize these patterns, because until we exactly see how procrastination tricks us, we'll keep taking the bait. How procrastination tricks you. Procrastination doesn't show up looking like your enemy. It shows up wearing disguises. It convinces you that you are being responsible, when in fact, you are just avoiding. And unless we pull back the curtains on these rings, we'll keep falling for them again and again. So let's discuss the most common tricks procrastination plays with us. Number 1, I am being productive. Here's how it gets you. You tell yourself that I'll quickly check the emails first, or let me reorganize my workspace before starting. These might feel productive, but the reality is that you are just creating an illusion of progress. Your brain would rather do 100 small tasks than face the discomfort of the one that actually matters. Number 2, it needs to be perfect. This one's sneaky because it sounds so reasonable. I can't start until I have the perfect idea or plan or tools. But we need to remember that perfectionism is just fear wearing a fancy costume. The reality is that everything great starts messy. Take any famous novel you love. The first draft was terrible. Look at any masterpiece painting. It looked awful at first. Keep in mind that done is always better than perfect, because done actually exists. Number 3, I work better under pressure. We have all said this, but let's be honest. That's not you doing your best work. That's you doing the bare minimum while your body floods with stress hormones. You're not thriving under pressure. You're just surviving it. And each time you do this, you're training your brain that panic is the only way to get things done. Number 4, I'll do it when I feel ready. Here's the problem with waiting until you feel like it. That day never comes. Motivation doesn't appear before action. It follows the action. Think about it. When was the last time you felt like working out before you actually started moving? Exactly. Never. Number 5. If I fail, it means I'm a failure. This is the deepest trick of all. Your brain would rather you not try at all than risk failing and feeling bad about yourself. But here's what's really happening. You're protecting your ego at the expense of your potential. But you know it, and I know it. Every successful person has failed more times than you have even tried. But here's the good news. Once you see these tricks for what they truly are, they begin to lose their power. Because the moment you recognize the game, you start playing by different rules. And that's exactly what we are going to do next. But this topic is too important to rush. So I'm breaking it down into 2 parts. In part 2, we'll dive into the exact steps you can take to break free from procrastination for good. If you have ever struggled with motivation, felt stuck in a cycle of avoidance, or wondered how to finally take control, trust me, you don't want to miss this. So stay tuned and I'll see you in part 2.